Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Tire in Langley inbox. The number is 604-294-94. Donnie and Dolly presented by Able Auctions and King of Floors. All of our guests on Tuesday sponsored by Skipper Auto, supporting Canadian fishing families through a revolutionary seafood buying experience. Check them out online at skipperauto.com as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button in the wake of the Leafs elimination last night at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. How are you, Craig?
I am good, Donnie. How are you doing? I was amazing this morning. I got up, I'm looking out my window, nice, bright, sunny day, and a couple of crows were sitting right on my doorstep.
There you go.
Wanted me to cook them up and eat it.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Craig? You took it on the chin last night. For people who don't know, Craig picked the Leafs, and you were the only one. You picked the Leafs to sweep the Habs in 4.
Yeah. Well, I said this a few times. Number one, I think it's important to say this, is that, the fans are passionate, and I love the passion of the fans, and I will never, ever, ever, look down on that passion, and that passion comes out, and hey, Craig, I can't believe you did that. You're so stupid. That's what predictions are. Predictions, you can only be one of two things, right or wrong.
Yep.
So there's no problem. That's what we do. But going into that, and I don't want the fans to change. That doesn't mean you have to be personally insulting or vulgar, because I got no time for it. But you know what? Disagree and poke fun. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what makes sports great. At the beginning of the series, and I watched the Montreal Canadiens. It wasn't a week before the playoffs started. It was months. And the Montreal Canadiens gave me no reason to believe they could beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And after 4 games, Montreal Canadiens fans had no reason to believe Montreal could win. But I give the Montreal Canadiens a ton of credit. I give Dominic Ducharme, the coaching staff, a lot of credit for making some adjustments and finding a path to victory. After Game 5, I said, that wasn't lucky. That, to me, was a real show that there was a path to victory. Game 6, they showed it, and going into last night's game, I really thought that Montreal had not just a real opportunity to win the series, but a good opportunity to win it. And they did. Because, quite frankly, Donnie and Rick, Toronto never made the adjustments. I'm not saying they had to make them after Game 4, but they had to be able to make them and recognize them after Game 5. Toronto never did.
What adjustments should they have made, Craig?
Number one, they refused. They were reluctant to dump the puck in. I get it. You want to be a puck-carrying team. You want to possess the puck. That's all important. Possessing the puck as opposed to not possessing the puck is always a good plan. But when the opponent now sees that you are not going to give up the puck and you're not going to dump the puck in, you know what? Well, guess what? It becomes a lot easier for that opponent to press up on you. The Montreal Canadiens pressed. They pressed in the neutral zone. They pressed at the blue line because they knew they weren't vulnerable for the puck going behind them. Because Toronto refused to do it. And it makes it easier to check. It makes it easier to play. And the Toronto Maple Leafs did not adjust to it. And that's a big factor with respect. And they're playing 4 defensemen. You start to go, they got 4 defensemen. We're just going to make them go back for pucks. We're going to wear them out. Like even that adjustment. Say, hey, we're going to do this for a period. We're just going to wear them down. We're going to make them go back for pucks and go back for pucks. Montreal's defense and look at the first goal last night. There's Marner trying to make a play at the blue line. What comes up in the offensive zone? Like, I get it. They want to expand the offensive zone, but they just kept circling around. How many times do you see it behind the net, up to the point, across, around, right? Well, Montreal just goes, okay, you want to play out there? That's great. You can go play out there. Yeah. They knew what was coming, and they didn't even worry about it because they didn't have anything to worry about it because Montreal couldn't break them down. Or Toronto couldn't break them down, and they made no adjustments to do so. So those are just a couple of the adjustments that I think needed to be made. I'm not talking about changing your game, Donnie, but adjustments. And Toronto didn't make them.
Craig, fire the coach, fire the GM, trade Marner, Matthews. You know, it's a hot Canadian market. You know everything's going to be brought up today in Toronto. But for you, a former GM, and you're going to put your thinking cap on, you think they need big changes or small changes in Toronto, Craig?
Well, here's what I would say, Rick. You know, the first thing you got to do is evaluate. You know, number one, okay, what didn't we do? What could we have done better in games 5, 6, and 7? I mean, they were up 3-1. Montreal scored 4 goals in the first 4 games. It wasn't like you're feeling threatened and you're going, okay. And maybe that is it. So what didn't we do? What could have we done better? That's the first assessment. That's players and coaches. So that's where you go. I think for Kyle Dubas, you know, he needs to get answers to those, and then understand where he goes once he gets the answers to those. And, you know, okay, we didn't make the adjustment. Why didn't we make the adjustment? Okay, do we understand where we go from here? I think Sheldon Keefe's a good coach, so I'm not worried about the coaching, but coaches, like players, have to learn. I think now you sit with the players and you try to understand, okay, what have we learned here? Not just this year, but from the previous years and this year moving forward, because there's a pattern here. There's a pattern of we haven't got through the first round. I mean, you know, and we have a 3-1 series lead and we capsize. I mean, that might be a harsh word, but that to me is what happened. Then you start to look at the identity of the team. And, you know, you look at, and I used this example earlier, and identity, it's not about the core all the time. I mean, the core is part of that identity, but everybody becomes a part of it. Has Corey Perry become a part of the identity of the Montreal Canadiens, just like he was part of the identity of the Dallas Stars last year? You know, those types of players, and it's not just Corey Perry, it's different types of players in different areas of the team that can have a real positive impact and a real significant influence on the group as a whole. I think they have to look at the identity and what they want. It's not just, we'll bring in veteran players. Those veteran players have to have an identity. And it can't, and honestly, guys, and I say this, it can't be bringing in guys because, yeah, let's win one for Joe, and let's win one for Jason, and let's win one for this guy. You know what? If they can help me win, let's get in there and help us win. Corey Perry's not interested in trying to win another one. He's interested in winning. Full stop.
Yep.
That's what I think, Rick, has to be emphasized.
Craig, the NHL draft lottery's tomorrow. It looks like the Canucks clearly going to have a top 10 pick. Can you tell us about the first 10 players in the NHL draft, Craig, and what kind of player the Canucks could possibly end up with?
Well, you know, Rick, I said at the top of the draft, I think there's a real good group of defensemen that, you know, they're not all the same, they're different, but I think they all can, you know, take on a significant role on your blue line. I don't think I'm stating anything that isn't obvious to Canucks fans, is that they can use some help on the blue line. And if you don't draft top defensemen, you know what, or defensemen that you think can be top defense, it's really hard to acquire them. It's really, really hard to acquire them. So, but as you move, I think that Power, Edvinsson, Brent Clark, and Luke Hughes, if the Canucks stay at 10 or 9, they're 9, right? If they stay at 9, I don't see any of those 4 defensemen there. Now, what do? You can't just look at it and go, well, we need a defenseman. I think there's better forwards that will be available for them at 9. And, you know, who are those players going to be? Could the BC kid Kent Johnson be there? Perhaps he could be. You know, could Dylan Gunther be there? Could Mason McTavish be there? I mean, those are the types of players, and I'm just naming some names that I think very well they're going to have to be able to consider. I don't see a defenseman, in my view anyway, at that spot that would make you say, okay, we're going to take this defenseman. I think those forwards, supersede any thought of a defenseman. That's me. That doesn't mean that they might not have a defenseman they think, but that's how I see it. Right?
And Craig, before we let you go, very quickly, I know we've gone down this road before, but it's news this week. Vasili Podkolzin, is he ready for the National Hockey League?
Absolutely, he's ready for the National Hockey League, and he's ready to come in and contribute to the Vancouver Canucks. You know, and let me just take this for a second here and just explain. I just talked about identity, right? And players that can contribute to Vasili Podkolzin is a dyed-in-the-wool competitor. He is only interested in doing whatever it takes to help his team win. The Vancouver Canucks have skill, and they have players that are really good and are dialed in. Nils Höglander isn't going to be a top offensive player. Neither is Podkolzin, but they're going to contribute to the identity of that team. They're going to be real good with the Petterssons and the Bessers and the Horvats and the Quinn Hughes. So when I look at Vasili Podkolzin and knowing his personality and knowing how he wants to make a difference when he's out on the ice, somehow, some way, to do everything he can to help the team win, and I've seen it. I've seen it for too many years. He was great in the playoffs this year in the KHL. He is ready to come in and help that identity and help this team be better. No question in my mind.
Okay. Enjoy the Crow. Craig, thanks so much for this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Craig. Craig Budden, Director of Scouting for TSN.
He loves Vasili Podkolzin.
And he's a good sport as well.
Well, he hates Nikita Triumkin, but he loves Podkolzin.